I'd like to encourage you, if you like what you see and you're finding benefit in it, please hit the like and click on subscribe, and we'll be glad to have you along with us. We'll let you know when we're putting more videos up that way. I'm Dennis of Capel Training and Shoeing, and today we're going to talk about reading the horse and how you're going to know when springtime comes here. Your horse has been off all winter, and you get him up and you want to be sure that he's ready for you to ride. You know, I'd like to start off by saying that I don't compartmentalize when I'm reading a horse and when I'm not. To me, it's a habit, it's a continuous thing, and it's something that I've developed, and I know that you would be able to develop as well if you just start thinking in terms of always being present and watching that horse, watching his eye, watching his body, and just letting him tell you where he's at, how he's feeling. You know, there's more to it than just observing, because, you know, a horse that's been off all winter, they've been out in their environment where they're comfortable, and when we bring them in, put a halter on, and when we want to saddle them up and get them ready to ride, we're exposing them to pressure. And basically what it would be like is if you were at home in your living room, comfortable as you can be, and somebody expected you to instantly put on dress clothes, and you found yourself, as soon as you walked outside of your home door, on a platform speaking to hundreds, thousands of people. What an uncomfortable position that would put all of us in, just to go from being the comfort of our living room to all that kind of pressure. That's what we're asking the horse to do when he's been out all winter. He's been the comfort of his living room. And then we're gonna ask him to wear a saddle, and we expect him to take care of us up there, not hurt us. And but it's not the horse's job to determine that. It's the handler's job. So that's what this video is going to be about here, is reading the horse and just responding according to what I'm seeing. Right now, this horse is standing over here quiet along the wall. He's got a good soft look in his eye. And as I approach him, his expression stayed fairly good, but did you see his ears kind of come back just a little bit and his eye hardened as I was approaching? It's not a big deterrent, but he's telling me, look, I feel you, and you need to be mindful of how he's accepting what I'm doing. And he stood there quietly and let me put the saddle pad on. I've got the saddle pad now placed on his back where I want it to be, where the saddle is going to be sitting just behind the point of his shoulder. I'll get my saddle in position now to put it on. He's still in a good frame of mind, so he's going to let me just put that saddle up there and accept that real nicely. I saddle from this side mainly because I go from horse to horse to horse, so it's a matter of efficiency for me, because I'm going to have to come around over here and undo my cinches and let them down in order to be ready to place the saddle onto his back. So I'm already over here on the right side of the horse, and I've got the ability now to check to see if the center portion of this girth is going to be near the center of his chest when I do cinch him up, and it feels pretty good there. I can make an estimate of how the back cinch is going to need to be adjusted as well. And I can make sure that this side of the saddle pad is where I need it to be. The saddle is sitting right in the middle of the saddle pad, and I've got this side of the pad pulled up into the gullet of the saddle. Now, when I go to the other side of this horse, I'm not going to walk up in this area where he's got me hemmed up next to the fence. I'm gonna create a little energy here and move this horse over. He was pretty numb to that energy, and for this particular horse, that's a really good sign. Some of them are notorious for being more energetic than we want them to be. He's just standing here quietly and letting me do what I need to do, so there's no need to create something that isn't there. The horse today is acting extremely good. So I'm gonna fix the saddle pad on this side of his body. Again, so that the saddle is in the middle of the saddle pad. I've got the front of the pad pulled up into the gull of the saddle. So I'll take this near stirrup and just hook it over my saddle horn now. And I like to have my saddle horn slightly tipped off to the right before I start saddling, because as I tighten the saddle up, the saddle is gonna pull over this way a little bit, and it's gonna pull over this way when you step in the stirrup to get on as well. So I've got my latigo placed like I always do them when I unsaddle, so that it's ready for the saddling process. So I took the knot off that kept the latigo in the keeper. I'm gonna reach underneath here, grab the cinch, bring it back so I see my latigo is there ready for me, and all I have to do is pull it down and go back up through the latigo, back down through the cinch. And I'm making an assessment here of how many holes am I going to have. I like to use it as few times through as I possibly can, if I've got enough to get it tight. If I need to get it tighter, I'll go through again, but I don't want to have a big wad of latigo here underneath my leg. It's just something for your leg to bump into when you're riding. So I'm not going to over cinch him. I just want to have it snug enough so that if this horse were to get troubled and feel like he had to try to get out from underneath the saddle, that the saddle could stay on him. I put my latigo back through the D on the saddle, and then I go up to the keeper. This particular keeper is got a real wide slot up here, so it's a little different. I put that latigo up from the underneath side first, and then bring it over and come down through that slit again, and leave that latigo just hang like that. That's the way this particular latigo keeper is made to do. They're not all made with that wide loop, and I don't know if it's any better or not. I think I prefer a narrower slit, so that I just put it up there and it just hangs. Go ahead and get the rear cinch. Now remember that on the other side I've got 2 holes showing. I've got 3 on this side, and mainly what I want to do is feel though that it's up against his stomach. You know, if you're going to use a rear cinch, it needs to have contact with the horse's stomach, because as you ride, it's going to loosen up. I see a lot of people riding and that rear cinch is hanging down there 6 inches off the belly, and all that is an opportunity to get in trouble with. I think it needs to be up against their stomach. However, if your horse is not used to having that rear cinch next to his stomach, don't just put it on there and get on him, because when he moves, he's probably going to react negatively, more than likely, to feeling that rear cinch. So if he does, we're just going to move him until he gets comfortable with it. So this horse is standing here. He's got a good attitude. Things are looking all pretty well here for him right now. So you see, I'm continually keeping an assessment in my mind of what's this horse's attitude. How's he feeling on the inside? His eye is pretty soft. Now he looked off the wrong way. He knows he's going to move his feet. Now generally, especially on a horse that's had all winter off, when you first put the saddle on and you move them away, there's going to be the biggest opportunity for this horse to get troubled. And the reason that they would get troubled is because that saddle is going to, this is that pressure point. The saddle puts pressure on the horse. When he moves, he no longer has the freedom of not having the saddle on there. When he moves, he runs into runs into the saddle, his body bumps up into it, and he feels that sensation in his back. So there's an opportunity for a horse to maybe overreact at times. So I'm really watching here as he moves his feet. What is his attitude? How is he responding to what I'm wanting him to do? And right now it's pretty good. He's not really listening to me as well as I would like for him to at this point. He's looking at, there's some horses over there, he's looking outside. You see he's got this shoulder, that left shoulder is pushed up towards me. Essentially this horse is hiding behind his left shoulder. Okay, I'm taking a mental note and observation here, and I'm going to ask him to move forward away from me. Now I haven't asked much of him at this point, and I've been doing mainly just observing to see what his attitude's like and how he's accepting of what I'm doing. When he came from the walk to the trot, his head came up, he got a little tight, and he was kind of moving his head in a way of saying, I don't really like what's going on. That's what the horse was saying to me in that instance. I'm gonna tighten this saddle up just a little bit. And see, I'm not asking him to move his feet right now. He's doing more than I'm asking him to do. I just want to come here on this side of his body and get up here where I can tighten this saddle up from this side. Now he found a place to get quiet. That's a good response. See, all that looking around, excess head movement, he just used as an excuse to move his feet here. When I didn't let him move his head around like he wanted to, he wanted to put his head down, he wanted to leave me. As tight as I can go on this side, I'll need to tighten it up some on the other side. Right now there's too much fidgeting around. You wouldn't want to crawl up on a horse that is this anxious about looking off and using everything as an excuse to move his feet. It's, again, a gathering of information here, letting this horse speak to me. See, as I'm tightening that cinch up, he's getting a little more anxious about moving his feet because of tightening that cinch. So I'm going to just send him out of here. Let him cover some ground, let him move. I've got some poles out here on purpose to let him start going over those poles. Him shaking his head and wandering around here. I need to keep him going forward here. We're going to change direction. Get around that. See, he didn't want to go across that pole. He's just doing a lot more with his head and neck than he needs to. Sticking his head up and being reluctant to respond favorably to what I'm wanting him to do. Now he's starting to come down on earth here a little bit, starting to act a little bit better, but he's still looking off left and right. So I'm gonna put him under a little bit more suggestion on my part. Start moving his hip away and bring his front end through. See, when he's sticking that nose up, he's expecting me to get a hold of him, and I'm not taking a hold of him. He's just flipping his nose around. That was a better attitude right there. When I asked him to move his hip, he didn't exhibit ill behavior in his face. He got quiet about moving his feet. Now he's back to fidgeting and doing more than I want, so I'm going to send him again. I asked him to go forward there, and he didn't go forward. He stuck his head up and said, I can't do it, I can't do it. He was just resisting. So I didn't quit. I didn't let his reluctance to respond properly get me to quit. And the thing that I always talk about, that I hold fast to, I know exactly what I want this horse to do all the time. With every step matters. And that thing being exactly what I want them to be, that is my clear mental picture. I know exactly how I want him to carry himself. I know exactly where I want his feet to go. I know exactly where I want him to look. If he's doing exactly as I want him to do, that gives me my timing to do nothing and let him be in freedom. Let him enjoy that sweet spot of freedom. If he is going outside of my picture, like right there, he took his nose and left, I'll send him forward and fix that. Take that time he came on through, I'm going to stop him parallel to me here. He faced up. I didn't want him to face up, so he was thinking about going back to his right, to my left. I wanted him to stop and stay parallel to me. That was my picture. So when he was starting to move his feet, at that instant, I stepped right up there, put just a little bit of pressure on him right here. If you just think about my lead rope right now as being a straight wall of energy, then I'm moving up in this fashion right here, and as I go to him, he should just step his front end away from that energy. He walked off. I didn't tell him to walk off. He was hoping I would ignore the fact that he just walked off there, but he ran into the end of that halter there. I'll ask him to step around there. Now let's see if he's, see when he leaves me and looks outside, like there, if I do something about it and bring him back to the sweet spot of freedom in that picture, his attitude's going to improve. If I let him look off and let him just do whatever he wants to do, his attitude is going to stay less than perfect for one, and it's probably going to deteriorate. So as I'm watching what's unfolding here in front of me, I'm looking for the opportunity for this horse to listen to me and find that spot of, see, he should have stopped 4 steps ago. He should have stayed out there parallel. He should be looking straight ahead. And when he found that spot between those boundaries, I let this horse have that complete freedom. I come up and put my hand on him. My touch here is reassuring him that everything's okay, that he is going to be all right. As far as the groundwork goes, I would test them to see if they're willing to go forward. I would test them to see if they're willing to move their hip. I would test them to see if they're willing to move their front end. And so far, everything I've asked him to do, he's done real willingly. Now I'm going to ask him to change eyes. I'm going to toss that rope over his head, and this he's not accepting. See, he thinks he's in trouble or something, whatever reason he's doing this, he's just tossing his head around. So I'm going to just keep tossing the rope until he accepts it. He just threw himself into that and did more than I needed him to do. He can get quiet about that rope. He can get quiet. Let me toss that rope where I know it. Get out. He stuck his head down, was looking outside. I'm going to toss this rope over his head again. Yeah, I'm not asking him to do anything other than just let me toss this rope over his head. He should be quiet when that rope goes over his head. he should turn back and face me without sticking his nose all the way to the ground. He should not be looking for an opportunity to run, to flee, as he is right now. He's overreacting as I'm tossing this rope over his head. I'm waiting for a better response of this. I feel like that if I can get a horse turning circles willingly in front of me, I've got a whole lot better chance of having a horse that's listening to me when I get on his back than if I just send one around and around and around. You notice I'm not staying in one place. I'm doing this all over the arena, just as if I'm riding. See, you know, when that rope goes over his head this way, he's accepting that. But right there, see, when he goes over there and sticks his nose down, he's thinking about leaving. So that's when you're seeing me bump him with the rope. Now he left and I didn't tell him to leave. So I'm going to raise the energy up here. These are the spots that we want to look for where this horse is doing more than we ask him. Get up there. See, when he felt that rope come back there, he was gonna get mad about that rope being on the side of him there. So what he just told me there is if I was to get on him here and he felt my leg squeeze on him, he's probably gonna buck. So he's telling me I need more preparation. I need more time here on the ground. He's just walking off. So I'm gonna get a rope here. As I start exposing this horse to more, he is taking it upon himself to do a lot of stuff that I'm not asking him to do. So I'm looking for this horse to come into agreement with me better. I'm going to take this rope, not to hurt him with, not to scare him with it, but to expose him. Expose him to sound, feel. Get over. See, what he's trying to do is stick his nose in on me and just move his butt away from that. Move his butt out away from that. He accepted that pretty nicely. You see what he's like here if we actually put it around his flank. Stepped out of it, that's okay. So as I'm using this rope, it's just another opportunity for him to find the ability to get quiet in spite of what's going on, not because of what's going on. Okay, now we've got that rope around his flank. Get up there. See him wanting to stick that. See, he's challenging me with his front end, so I'm going to get a flag here. I don't have hardly any pressure on that rope at all. None. So that rope is not hurting him a bit. He's just feeling it. And that's what he would do to my legs if I got on him. And see, I need this flag to keep his front end out away from me. Just waiting for this horse to quit being mad and quit overreacting. He's just being emotional here. I'm watching his eye and his ear. He's still, I don't have 2 ounces of pressure on that rope at all. He's just carrying it around. It's just there. If you pull too hard, you can make one, react to it. But he's reacting just at a very little feel for no reason. Now, he's got his ears up, his eyes softening a bit. He's letting me let him feel that, and he's not overreacting to it now. It's a better attitude. Still looking outside, still doing more than I want him to do. I'm going to step up here and get him to stop and let him just be. Now, I'm not saying that you've got to flank every horse that's come out of the spring, but you need to know your horse and be able to tell if your horse is getting better as you prepare him to ride, or if he looks like he's looking for opportunities to not listen as well. And that's what this horse was doing as I was working him. He wasn't trying to get better. He was staying in a frame of mind that wouldn't be very good if we was on him. Now see, he's accepting this. I'm not trying to get him to go around me now. I'm desensitizing him. I ask him to come back here. He doesn't need to be overreactive with his head. I'm not hurting him. I'm not doing anything to cause him to do that. He's just being emotional and being overreactive. So I'm going to let him just step that front end away. Keep stepping that front end away. Bring his front end through. He's just wanting to walk off there. He should be just stepping his front end there. When he does that, he's in my picture. Things are softening up. He's getting quieter. Much better attitude. Now let's see where he's at as far as letting me toss that lead rope over his head now. We exposed him to more pressure with the rope until he accepted it. That's what all of this is about, is just reading the attitude of the horse as he responds to the stimulus. See, on that time when I tossed that rope over, he didn't overreact, and now he's letting me take that rope. He's willingly letting me move his feet at my suggestion. You see, this attitude here, after what we've just done with the lariat, has produced an attitude now that there's a good chance that he's ready to ride. I ask him to go forward. When I ask him to move his hip away, when I ask him to bring his front end back through, when I ask him to change eyes, I'll just ask him to do that again. I don't want to Don't want him over-responding, overreacting. He just needs to listen quietly. Okay, so let's go get the bridle. Put the bridle on and see where he's at. The reason that I raised up there like that, this horse was showing me when I went over and got that bridle, he started taking his nose, sticking it out and sticking it on things around me. Then he started coming in close. Well, that's a horse that is positioning himself to take back over. A horse trying to get too close is usually that's what's going on. He's assumed that respectful distance right here. Things look pretty good, so I'm gonna go ahead and slip this halter off his nose. And when I'm putting the bridle on, first thing I want to do is put their nose all the way through the headstall like that, and then I'll put my hand up here on my right hand on top of his head. I'm not pushing down, I've just got it up there. And now I'll take my left thumb and move it just a little bit right there in the corner of his mouth where there's no teeth, and I'll get my thumb inside his mouth, and when I feel his tongue, I start moving my thumb back and forth up and down that tongue a little bit until he starts licking it. Then I just simply lift it quietly up into his mouth. Now you see I've got that headstall coming up between his eyes on the right side. So when I put it around, I lift it over that eye and bring that ear forward, and then I check to see if my headstall's the right length. It looks pretty good. Now, even though we've done quite a bit on the ground and he's got a real good attitude, I want to see what he's going to be like when he feels a little pressure in his mouth. And this is a real good thing to do, especially if you're somewhere where you've got a smaller area that you can turn the horse loose in. I'm going to tie that bridle rein up. For me, if a horse is prematurely trying to put their head down from the withers, their intentions aren't probably as good as they could be. I mean, I like a low-headed horse, and I like for a horse when I give them slack to soften up and lower that head, but I don't want them to get front end heavy. You see, and as this horse was starting to feel that bridle rein, he's starting to push that front end heavy, and that puts more weight on the front feet. And it just becomes harder and harder to communicate very clearly to a horse when they're just pushing down through that bridle like that. So I've put those reins on there in a way that when he holds his head up slightly, like it is right now, he's not going to feel any pressure from that bit at all. So if he carries himself like that, where he's coming up and he gets soft here in the neck and he gets soft in the pole, you know, that's where I like to show a horse, this is the good spot. This is the sweet spot I want you to carry yourself in when I've got them on a short bridle rein. And basically, that's all I have here now with having it tied to the saddle horn as I do, is a short bridle rein. That doesn't mean that this bridle rein is tight. He's got slack in there because he knew where to go place himself to get comfort. So as I let him just, you know, move around here a little bit, I'm again watching and reading, seeing where he's at, what his attitude's like. I'm going to send him forward Looks pretty good there. I like that he didn't overreact when he heard that rope coming out at him. He didn't overreact. He's staying in a good frame of mind. He's staying off of that bit. In other words, he's not pushing down on that bit at all. Things look pretty nice. I'm not going to create a problem that isn't there. We can change direction and see what he's like when we change direction. Now, from 20 feet back, he looked outside and he left me. So I'll just send him on here, get his feet moving, let him find out that he can move out freely. You see that? When he's come out of that trot, started cantering, if you'd have been on him right there, it probably wouldn't have felt too good. So let's let him find out how he can get comfortable out there. Get comfortable. Let's get a direction change here. Now, he's an Arabian, so you can't put a whole lot of stock in how he's carrying his tail. They've been bred for years to carry their tails like that. If you got a thoroughbred or a quarter horse or an Appaloosa and he's carrying his tail like that, he's telling you, I'm not ready to get on. You know, he's telling you, I'm feeling too good. The Arabians stick their tail up as soon as their feet start moving, so you can't use that tail as much of a guide to tell you what's going on. All right, he's looking like he's in a pretty good frame of mind now, so I'm gonna catch him, see how he'll be to mount. He should have stopped over there. He chose to walk off. I'll give him another opportunity to come out here, stop right there. He chose to turn the opposite direction. He should have stayed 2 steps back. But he did correct himself and stop right there. So I'll take that. Okay. Now I'll loosen that bridle rein up. I'm going to ask him to come over here to the mounting block. Now I'm going to tighten this saddle up a bit. I want him to stay put, so I'm not looking to get on here. I'm wanting to see if he's thinking about staying put or if he's thinking about leaving. And he stayed put. Okay, now I've got my foot in the stirrup and I've got a little contact with his mouth. I think it's It's wise for you when you first get on one that's been a while since they've been ridden. Like this horse, he's had all winter off, so this is the first time he's been ridden in several weeks. I want to have contact with his mouth, and I want his head to stay up. And I want to keep this horse looking where he's going. You know, this horse is broke to ride one-handed, so that's why I'm riding him one-handed. If your horse is still, you know, riding where he needs you two-handed, you start off right away riding two-handed. If I would feel this horse get tight, I'm gonna just start doing something to get his back feet untracking. Like here, I've just added just enough right leg to move his hip away from me like that. If I can get his back feet crossing like that, I've taken his power away. Now, if your horse is not trained to ride one-handed, this won't work like this. You'll have to get a hold of both bridle reins and use that inside rein along with your inside leg. And see, he's wanting to move his front feet right now, so he's not really listening to me right here. There, he moved his back feet, and then I can go forward. So these are things that you can do when you first get on to still test where is your horse at mentally. How is he responding to your legs? Is he quietly moving away from them, or do you feel him getting tight? Now I'm going to keep his head up and ask him to move forward here. We'll go up into a trot. I like to keep my horse directed. In other words, I'm not going to let this horse take steps somewhere that I'm not looking. He needs to go exactly where I want him to go and not where he wants to go. Hopefully I can show him that if he goes where I'm asking him to go, that's the better deal, and he's going to go there because that feels better. I want him to stay in a rhythmic trot. Now, if you notice, even though this horse hasn't done a thing wrong since I've been on him, but I've still got my right hand, I've got my thumb on top of that saddle horn, and I've got my hand behind it, and I'm pushing just a little bit, not to brace my body up, but to be there in case this horse were to all of a sudden decide, like he did with that rope, that maybe he didn't want me up here. And again, you need to know your horse and know what you're going to be up against. He's wanting to put his head down a little lower than I want right here, so I'm lifting on that bridle rein to pick his head up just a little bit. At the same time, I'm asking for a little more forward with my seat. See, I'm keeping my seat right there on a sitting trot, so I'm right there with him. I feel like that I can stay with the horse better at a sitting trot than I can if I'm coming up out of that saddle. Nothing wrong at all with posting, but not on a horse that you just got on that you're trying to test to see if he's going to let you ride him or not, if he's going to try to jump out from under you. This horse left me here now. He's over somewhere outside of the pen. He's not with me, so I'm feeling that, and I'm asking him to get forward, stay forward and get up. I'm going to ask him to just trot a little faster, stay right in here. I'm going to start directing him a little bit more forward. Now get up. See, I'm asking him to go forward. I'll use the wall a lot of times to help me. I'll send him into the wall and send him out of the wall. Send him into the wall and send him out. Just go. I'm asking for a little more forward. When he canters, I quit squeezing with my leg, set up and riding with him. I want him to go forward a little better. I want him to go forward more. If he's barely moving forward and he's going up and down, he's telling me he's not as comfortable as he could be. See him moving off to the left there into my left foot instead of away from it. I'm asking him to get forward here. Now he's starting to relax. Let him sit here. He was starting to listen, feel pretty decent. It wasn't as good as it can be, but it's a whole lot better than it could have been if I hadn't prepared him. So hopefully these are some tips that you can use. I would add that I don't do anything different when I'm preparing a horse that hasn't been ridden a while than I do one that I've been riding every day. I'm continually reading them. And even that horse that maybe you've been working every day, if I see a hint of disagreement that shouldn't be there, I like to work that out on the ground before I get up on their back, you know, because you never know. They're like we are. They wake up feeling different every day, and you want to be good to the horse, and you want the horse to want you to want to let you ride them and be kind. Like this horse has gotten real kind here right now, but you know we went through quite a bit of preparation to get him that way. So hopefully you'll be able to take some tips about how to read and how the horse is responding to you. That's where your horsemanship reading skills are really going to benefit you, when you're able to recognize, when I put this pressure on, what was the horse's attitude? If it was good, you know, there's your timing to let him feel it, let him know that's a good thing. If it wasn't good, there's your timing to let him know, look, this isn't a good thing. I can't let you live like that. So anyway, but this horse is feeling pretty good here, and when they start getting responsive like this and quiet like this, and he lets me send him forward without being bothered by it, then you got a horse that's ready to go outside and do whatever you want to do on him.